So open the floor up now. Anybody who wants to say anything, please help yourself.
This is Wade here. I've been giving away courses for Bitcoin certification this year a few times now, and they go really fast.
Hey, wait, could you turn up your microphone a little bit, please?
I'm not sure how to turn it up. It's not on?
It's very faint.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do other than talk louder.
Okay.
If you go into settings on... Oop.
Okay, somebody's echoing.
Okay, so if you go into settings on Zoom there, and you go under sound settings, you should be able to turn up your microphone from there.
Better?
A little bit better. Anyways, go on. You were doing some education?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of practice tests that I have on Udemy that I've been giving away this year. And whenever I give them away, they usually go within a matter of hours. So I can only give out 10 at a time. Now that's the cap that Udemy puts on everybody. But I've got 10 more I'm going to put into the chat window and also on the WhatsApp group. So whoever wants to take them, I'm putting another 10 out there. These are in English. And what I would like to know is I've also had them in Spanish and in French. Would anybody be interested in getting Spanish or French Bitcoin classes or training for the certification? If you do, tell me in the chat, and then I will I'll make a free link to that as well. I don't want to bother making the link if no one wants it, but if someone wants Spanish or French, just let me know, and I'll put a link into a French or Spanish Bitcoin certification test series as well.
Great. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
I guess I will. The usual Bitcoin B announcement. So we are always looking for volunteers and interns, and always looking to grow the space. So if you are somebody, and some people have already reached out, and we're slowly working through our list. But if you want to learn more about crypto, blockchain, please reach out to myself, Leo at bitcoinbay.ca, or info at bitcoinbay.ca, or Gaurav or any other team. And we'll see what projects we can put you on. Actually, right now, I know we're actively looking for interns for design interns, as well as community event members and managers to help us actually do all the petty things. Now, for those that were involved with our block hack last year, and also, last year, we're looking to also build up volunteers again for the block hack that will be coming up as well. So just reach out to either email volunteers at bitcoinbay.ca, or reach out to myself, Leo at bitcoinbay.ca, or info at bitcoinbay.ca. And either way, we will get back to you on that.
Perfect. Anybody else?
I just want to say, if there's any up and coming developers or anybody who just wants to learn blockchain development, even if you don't know anything, I'd be happy to help you in your journey. So I'll just leave my Telegram handle here in the chat. So if anyone wants to learn more about blockchain development, or just wants to know some tips about how to get started, you can just message me.
Okay. So Leo, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who might be new to our meetup what the Bitcoin Bay is exactly?
So Bitcoin Bay has been in existence as a meetup first since 2013, 2014. What we did was, in the Toronto or the GTA area, a group of individuals that got into the space, basically were learning about Bitcoin, Litecoin, and I call them the first gen crypto, a name coin, and basically we liked the tech and the token so much that we got together and started to teach newbies since 2014. And through our meetups, a lot of other startups have been started. Other people have met each other and gone out and done great things. And so through the process in 2017, we incorporated to say, you know what, we can do a better job by actually incorporating and actually helping grow the community and actually do the work that we all love to do, which is help people develop ideas. So we've transitioned not only to be a meetup or an event thing, but we are what we consider a blockchain ecosystem builder. This has allowed us to partner with BitAngels, where we do what you would consider angel investing, startup pitches on a bi-monthly basis, or twice every 2 months with BitAngels, where we bring investors and startups together, and these startups pitch to these investors. Again, that's part of community building up the ecosystem. The community engagement part is also part of it, helping individuals learn about trading, and all that is all part of it, from blockchain to crypto 101. So that is all. We think building the whole ecosystem, growing the whole ecosystem, benefits everybody in the ecosystem. It benefits users at general, at large. So Bitcoin Bay is where your journey on blockchain begins. I think, as already stated, we are Canada's largest and longest running blockchain community. Bitcoin Bay is not only in Toronto, we have Kitchener-Waterloo, which Michael is the city ambassador for. We have Mississauga, we have Dubai, we have Sao Paulo, I think in Argentina, we have, where else? We have San Francisco, Silicon Valley. So we are looking to expand the community engagement part, because I think that's where the initiative is. We won't give up community engagement like other people that were in the space. They started off doing community engagement and gave it up to just focus on business. We think that's a core mandate of ours. So it's to start toward journey. And if we don't know what the topic or the issue is, I think we know enough people in the space globally that we can always connect you with somebody to help you. This event is brought to you in partnership with Louis B. So I can read all this out to you, but I'm not going to do. All I'm going to say is that if you're looking to buy crypto, you're a first-time buyer, and you don't want to go through an exchange, and you like the hands-on touch, then go out to Louis B if you're in the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto area. And if you're elsewhere, let us know if you provide this service, and we will direct people to you as well. But what Louis does is that you can approach her, go to her location, bring your wallet and your money, and she will be able to basically sell you Bitcoin right on the spot. You can see, go on your wallet and whatnot. So you don't have to deal with all the BS with exchanges and whatnot. It's in your wallet, your private key, you control it. So that is the push. So Louis B is the one you go to. She's got a few locations. Spadina is the main one that we know of, or that I know of, that most of us go to. But she's got a few other locations in the city that you can go and see her or her staff at. And we all know that the governments require you to do a KYC and whatnot, but the requirements for that is like 9,900 and change. So as long as you're buying under that, you can go in and buy, and she's not required to maintain any KYC on you, and she can correct me on that. But if you go above that, you can then you'd have to fill out your KYC. Not only does she sell crypto, she buys cryptos, and right now I think the main crypto she deals with is Bitcoin. She doesn't do anything else, if I'm not mistaken. So that is your start. So please go out and see Louis B. And I will add her website in the chat in a few minutes.
I can
So
vouch
what
for
we do? Okay, perfect.
I've used her.
Okay, perfect. So how we help? Bitcoin Bay, basic product development. Anything that blockchain crypto related, we can help you do that. We will walk you through the process. We can develop it either with the UX UI side or the application side. We can do that. We also basically leads into the ideation assessment part. We will tell you whether your idea is blockchain worthy in the current state or not. Not all ideas are blockchain eligible in the current state, but that doesn't mean they won't be eligible a year or two from now as the whole space grows and develops. So we'll tell you in the current state whether it's better to do what you're trying to do with database, or if blockchain or some form of crypto works for you. So that also goes into building decentralized application like NFT, And I guess we touched ICOs for a while, but then we dumped that idea a long time ago. So also we focus on cryptocurrency trading strategies. Some of us in the Bitcoin Bay core team have some market trading background. So I think we have an idea of how general markets work, how trading works from the fundamental to the technical aspects. We can bring that out. Also, we have a private fund that we manage internally and we do research for. So that, again, that is kept internally, not no public participation. So again, with that, we are able to leverage off that and help you with your trading strategies and crypto, analyze your tokens and whatnot. Investor relations is basically drew from the partnership we made with angel investors and VCs in the space and outside of the space. So we try to partner or bridge the gap with startups, non-startups that are looking to raise funds with investors that are looking for good companies to invest in. And merchant adoption, which is our big push right now, is to make it as easy for people to use crypto to buy stuff. Never mind what all these latecomers like what's it called, MasterCard and all these guys are trying to jump on the bandwagon. Those guys really, they're not adding anything that is worth adding to the system besides taking an existing system and trying to exploit it. In the long run, I think the community can actually develop strategies and projects that will help merchants adopt and save money, because all the transactions that that they're processing for crypto, there's going to be a fee for that, and we feel the fee shouldn't be so significant. So we as a community have to look at a way to strategize to help merchants actually adopt crypto, and that's what we're in the space for as well. And that's that for that one. The core team right now for Bitcoin Bay is me. I'm here, Leonard. We have Jerry. We have Antoine. We have Gaurav, who's not in yet, and Alwyn, who was known as the coin guru. So these are the 5 main core teams. We have contributors or collaborators like Michael Free and Juan and all the other collaborators that help us build the products and services that we offer, and also help us engage and grow the community globally. And if you want to be a collaborator with Bitcoin Bay, please reach out to any one of us, and we can see how we can add you as a collaborator to Bitcoin Bay. Now, I think we already did the community announcement, but this is your last chance. If you have something to say or something to add, this is your last chance to do a community announcement. I'll give you a minute to say something, but if you don't,
we'll have chats afterwards too, by the way.
okay. Thank you, Jared. We'll have Q&A and all that as well.
Okay, so speak now or forever hold your peace.
Mm-hmm. Now, Michael, I don't know if Jerry told you, Daniel's having problems with internet connectivity, and he's in Venezuela. So we're hoping that he's able to connect. If not, if we connect, we'll add him, so we'll save him for last in the order of rotation. So just go ahead. I now give it to Michael.
Okay.
To start.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It means a lot to us. We have a great panel for you today. We have some experts in their fields and experts in their countries. And, this gives us an opportunity to see what the rest of the world is doing outside of North America and Canada, especially the GTA in itself as well. So we have DaVinci Jeremie set up here with us. Give us a wave there, Jeremie. We have Daniel. He's a little bit disconnected right now. We have Chris Vagalia, and we have Jack Saracco. So DaVinci, you may have come across him when you typed in the word Bitcoin on YouTube. He is the founder of the DaVinci Code. He is a software engineer, a developer. He is a trader, and he lives in Chile currently. He is, I think, coming to us from Mexico. And we also have Daniel González. He works with fullstack.cash. You might be familiar with that. It is the software stack that is on top of Bitcoin Cash. And he also helps develop platforms to be immutable on the blockchain and give us extra extra functionality than you might say see on the Bitcoin network. We have Chris Vagalia from AGRI-TECH. Now he has his own interesting little venture. Actually, it's not a little venture, it's a quite interesting one. And I think what we'll do is when we start giving the panel over to everybody, they can tell us a little bit about themselves, because I probably have glossed over a little bit, and they can go into what they are dealing with. Chris is a AGRI-TECH company that works with the blockchain to enable farmers access to markets and access to their own banking or financial instruments. And we have Jack Saracco, and it is from Settle Network. And Settle Network is one of Latin America's largest exchanges that they have. So I think what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it over to DaVinci to introduce themselves. I'm probably very terrible at that. Afterwards, we'll go through and introduce all the other people. And then from there, we'll start our discussion. How does that sound, everyone? Good. All right, DaVinci, take it away.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is DaVinci Jeremie. I've been living in Chile for about 7 years now, and currently vacationing or workcation in Mexico, Tulum right now. I'm doing videos with Chris from Crypto, right? We're business partners. We work together, and I'm a YouTube influencer. I go by the name DaVinci 15. You can find me on Twitter under that handle. You can find me on Instagram under that handle. Probably a lot under that handle. So everywhere you want to find me, that's where that handle, you just look up DaVinci 15. I also own a company called DaVinci Codes, where we produce software called a software product called Pandora's Wallet. I have the website DaVinci15.com, where you can subscribe to a Telegram channel where I show you what my trades are, and also all my trading techniques and stuff like that. At DaVinciCodes.net, www.davincicodes.net, you can learn how to do the little lady strategy of trading, which is pretty cool method of trading, which we'll talk more about that later. And that's about it. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir. So let's take this over to Chris Vagalia. Why don't you tell us a little bit about AGRI-TECH, what you do in this field? And it sounds really interesting. Tell us more. I think you're muted, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on your program. As you mentioned, my name is Christopher Vagalia. I come from a small island nation in the South Pacific called Papua New Guinea, just north of Australia. And I own and manage a AGRI-TECH firm called AGRI-TECH Organics. Our main role is research and development into blockchain technology and how it helps to resolve the issue of financial inclusion within our country. The population of which is 80% informal and agricultural based. So the purpose of our platform is to allow our farmers to get on board and participate meaningfully in the economy. So apart from AGRI-TECH, I also run and manage other platforms. I also manage a crowd fund called Invest in Me. But basically, the bulk of the work that we've committed to so far is with regard to awareness, especially in emerging economies like Papua New Guinea, where the technology in itself is still in its infancy. And one of the best ways to actually get out there and connect with the people is to provide solutions like blockchains that allow them to take their existing situation into consideration and help to facilitate some of these things that they wouldn't otherwise have using conventional technologies. So yeah, please feel free to go on to our website, www.atopng.com, atopng.com, and learn more about what we do.
Great, great. So I don't think Daniel is in just yet, so we'll take it over to Jack. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in this space?
Amazing. Thank you very much, Michael. So as you very well said, I'm the head of partnerships and business at Settle Network. Settle Network is the largest fiat to crypto on-ramp service in Latin America. We are in Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico, and the on-ramp for the largest exchanges and ecosystems in the world. We're partners with OKX, Bit, Chile are a stellar investor by Star on last December. We're partners with Maker. We have brought them to the region, and we provide the availability for this systems and so to the last to feature and users on ramp to any since we have low infrastructure.
I think we got a little cut off there. I think it might be a little bit better if we got you to turn off your video. We might get a little bit more bandwidth out of you there on that. But thank you so much for that. Do we have?
Yes, that would be great. Yes.
So do we have? Who is our last participant? Is Daniel back in here tonight? Is he back in yet?
Daniel's in Venezuela. I don't know if he's, again, the internet connection in Venezuela, how it's operating right now. We all know the situation in Venezuela. So we'll see if he's in. I don't see him in here yet. But if he comes in, we can always fill him in. At any point in time, you can always jump in. But
Sure.
Right now, we can work with the three we're dealing with right now.
Okay, so let's just start it off with just a simple discussion. We'll start getting, ask a question, and then we'll go through our panel here. So everybody, how about we start off with what is the perception of blockchain or cryptocurrency in your own nations and communities? So we'll start off with DaVinci, and maybe he can kind of fill us in on that.
So we wanted to, sorry, what was the question again?
So what is the perception, what is the sentiment in, say, your nation that you work with or that you live in? So maybe the perception, is there adoption? Is it widely known? That kind of thing that we're kind of looking for.
Well, obviously with price, more people have come into the space in Chile, but in general, if you were to ask a Chilean about Bitcoin, they've heard of it, but they have not invested. The investment, investing in Chile is a very small amount of people do investing. So it's not as big as it is in North America. However, it is starting to grow as more people see that, of course, you know how much money that's being made. This is what attracts people to the space, is that the massive amounts of increase in value that people are getting, or wealth that people are getting. And so this is part of what Bitcoin's about, right? This rapid increase in wealth gets people interested and gets people looking at it and gets people going, okay, well, what's going on here? Why is it doing this? And learning about what it's all about, and learning about the technology, learning why it works, why it's not a scam, why it's not a Ponzi, why it's going to be here to stay. And you know, with Elon Musk, you know, in charge here, I think things are going to be quite different going forward, because now it's going to be difficult for somebody to write, oh, it's a Ponzi, when, you know, the smartest man on the world, the most richest man, just endorsed it to put in his balance sheet. I don't see how you could connect a Ponzi with him in any shape or form. It just seems ridiculous. so yeah, we're in Chile. It's still growing slowly. There are some of course, lots of scams there, unfortunately. I've been to a couple of meetups, and that were just pure scams. Basically, they were trying to get people's money, and it was horrible. I walked out of a lot of them, and I showed people, hey, listen, that's not Bitcoin. They're not going to get you any Bitcoin. They're not explaining how to, you know, go to exchanges or anything like that. They just want your money. And I gave out a few $100s of Bitcoin here and there for people in those groups, because I felt really bad that they were wasting their time and in these scams. So that happens a lot in Chile. My brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, he got caught up in a scam and you know, it lost like, you know, $500, right? Into a scam that said, hey, you know what, I'm going to invest the Bitcoins for him. And no, that's, they people just, they're gullible that way. They just seem to like listen to somebody out of the blue and, hey, take my money, hey, give me money and I will invest it for you. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense why you would do that, but they do. A lot of people do that.
I've come across that myself, where I've had to get on the phone and call a family member saying, tell me you didn't put money into that, even here in Canada. But I think we even covered something like that a few weeks ago with Antoine, where it was an active Ponzi being happening in the Philippines. And, you know, you think of different countries have different economic situations. These are the last people that probably need to be putting their money into something like that. And that just kind of breaks your heart when you see that kind of happening, doesn't it? So I think this will that's some good food for thought. And I think we'll take it over to Christopher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I think you'll have some really good insights compared to what DaVinci had to say.
Yeah. In Papua New Guinea, we have a lot of varying views about Bitcoin and blockchain in general. If you had asked me this question 6 years ago, I would have told you that Bitcoin was a scam. But now I think my views have changed a lot since I actually started getting into the technology. I'm actually self-taught myself. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned is through trial and error. But one thing I've learned, and the takeaway for me is I now understand the basic principles around how Bitcoin operates and how the blockchain operates as well. So I'm in a better position to educate a lot of our people. And you said yourself, an example would be Philippines and other emerging economies. Now with the heightened awareness of things like blockchain and cryptocurrencies, a lot of people are moving in that direction. And you'll find that with that comes a lot of scammers too, who use that as an opportunity to scam a lot of our people. So that is one of the challenges that I've encountered along the way. Again, when I first started, the Bank of Papua New Guinea, the central bank, actually warned me not to get into cryptocurrency, and this is the highest office in the land. So you can understand how far back their understanding was with regard to the technology. So it required a lot of awareness on our part to actually bring the technology out into the open and get them to understand its functionalities and a lot of the benefits that come with it. That's why I met Anton for the first time. So we've developed that relationship since our meeting then. But as I said, there's a lot of mixed reactions. But I think now with Bitcoin hitting its all-time high and a lot of effort has been put around the technology itself and awareness with regard to the technology, you'll find that a lot of people are coming on, a lot of genuine people, a lot more people are becoming acquainted with the technology and are making more informed decisions with regard to the investments.
Great. No, great input there. Jack, this ought to be interesting with Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. So here in Argentina, crypto is something that everyone's talking about right now. It's the hot stuff to be speaking of. I don't know if you're aware, but in Argentina, we're having about 50% annual inflation year after year. So we're desperate trying to look for fiat currency or some type of currency in order to have our wages or some type of reserve, monetary reserve. We usually use the dollar. And with the creation of USDT, DAI, Bitcoin, that's something that our community is amazed with, and it's something they can't stop buying. Like here, the banks don't have the best history. They once 20 years ago took the money of their clients. So we, as Argentinian, we really look into who's holding the funds, how we can make our funds safer and safer each time. And I don't know if before the audio was on my side, but we have a table of OTC. We have an OTC desk. I manage the OTC desk, and the volume transaction on the OTC desk is clearly all-time high throughout the 3 years we have been in business. And now more and more institutions are silenced, like in a silent way, coming in. And that's when you really see adoption. When you see great industries, great corporate companies buying Bitcoin, buying Ethereum or any type of token, that's when you really see a demand. And that's something I feel really interested.
Thank you. That's really interesting too. I was really well aware of the inflation that was going on in Argentina.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know if Daniel's gotten back in yet, but we can only imagine that's going on.
Venezuela.
Like in Venezuela,
Exactly.
where you know, it's basically toilet paper as your dollar bills there. And so hopefully he gets back on, because I think he would have amazing input for us tonight. So I think that brings us to our next input, and I think some of us have already touched on that as well. Tell us a little bit about the infrastructure that's already set up to get people in. Like, how would somebody in your country get involved with it? And I think depending on the country you're involved in, I'd really love to hear about Venezuela as well and how that would have worked as well. And tell us about government sentiment, or maybe government sentiment there, or their regulations. I know that the world governments are never short on drama when it comes to cryptocurrency and blockchain. So tell us a little bit about that, DaVinci.
Oh, sorry about that. So I didn't know you're addressing me. So so it's a drama with governments and banks. Obviously, it's still
He's cotton candy money. Yeah.
I think somebody is didn't mute themselves. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I got it there. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah. So, as you know, right, Russia is one of those countries that you know, have banned Bitcoin, and they keep changing the rules and making it difficult for people, because, of course, they know that this would crush the ruble. And then, of course, the banking system in India. You've heard of the Indian central bank saying, no, it's illegal, but really, then the government comes out and says, no, we didn't say it was illegal. So what are you talking about? And so now they're trying to make it illegal through the government. So if any country decides to ban Bitcoin, they're only going to ban themselves out of the economic future. Like, for example, in the past, right? Not London, but the UK, they actually were so far behind in the auto industry because of the flag. What's it called? The flag rule, right? Where you had to have somebody walk in front of your car, right, with wearing a flag, having a flag to say, "Warning! A machine is coming in front of." So you got to be careful. And so that put the auto industry behind for quite some time, until they repealed that rule. So this is what's going to happen to them. They're just going to fall behind in technologies. And I think a lot of countries understand that, including the United States, and they're not ready to ban it, but they are trying to slow it down. So right now, I would expect countries to work on slowing it down. I expect central banks to work on slowing it down, and I think they've already started, right? You can see it with the PayPal. You can actually buy Bitcoin in PayPal, but you can't withdraw the Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin. There's lots of the derivatives exchanges, right? The CME and the Crimex. They are letting you. I call it Comex, the Crimex, right? Because because it's a big fraud. Can you imagine? I'm going to promise you to pay you something, and I'm not going to deliver it, right? Ever. And by the way, that sets the price. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's the price of the asset, underlying asset. A promise to pay the asset that you're never going to pay, and it sets the price. That's a crime. But whatever. So those are the these are the mechanisms they're going to be using going forward to help suppress the price right? Because then you can know that, for example, PayPal, they're not, because you don't receive the Bitcoins, they do have the Bitcoins right now, but you can imagine in the future they're going to either fractionally reserve them, use them to help suppress the price, and eventually not have any kind of Bitcoin, because effectively the Federal Reserve or central banks can give them any kind of cash that they would fall behind should the price rise. So they don't have any kind of liability. They probably already signed some agreement with the central bank for that. For that exactly. You know that has happened with silver with J.P. Morgan when they took over all the contracts from Bear Stearns. They all of a sudden they you read in the if you read the agreement with the central bank, they were indemnified from any losses that Bear Stearns had, for any positions they had Bear Stearns had. So the Federal Reserve would bail them out 100% on them on their money. So obviously they could hold massive amounts of shorts on silver and keep it down forever, because you know what? There's no losses for them on their books ever.
Sounds a lot like the GameStop fiasco.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's how we're going to see the moving forward. They're going to suppress. They need to suppress the price action of Bitcoin, so that if you do that, the adoption is a lot slower.
Right. So I think that leads us into Chris. I think he'll have some great input on that. Government sentiment, infrastructure to get on and off Bitcoin. I think you might be a little bit part of that question yourself as a part of the solution there. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Well, I will echo some of the sentiments that DaVinci made mention of. Adoption in Papua New Guinea is quite slow, and that's mainly due to the fact that it's largely unregulated. There's no regulation in Papua New Guinea or any other emerging economy with regard to the use of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and, of course, blockchain. So you'll find that a lot of the time they delay a lot of the work with regard to Bitcoin simply because of the fact that they need to catch up as well. But with regard to Papua New Guinea, it's quite promising to see that the government has actually taken the bold step to initiate a secretariat, which is a part or an arm of the government, specifically for blockchain development and research. So they're looking at some form of an e-government, similar to what Estonia has done with its government there. So that's something very promising. And out of that, there's a lot of opportunities now. An example would be, for example, a stable coin, which is backed by our natural resources. Papua New Guinea is probably one of the most resource-rich nations in the world, but we've got things like trust issues and, of course, things like corruption, which are issues that face many emerging economies. And we see that as an opportunity for blockchain to come in and fix some of this situation, allowing for greater adoption and for greater wealth sharing amongst our people in general. So with that regard, yes, it's relatively in its infancy, but it's promising to see that the government is taking that initiative to bring Bitcoin and blockchain especially into the limelight and take advantage of some of its finer points. Yeah.
Really interesting, Chris. It sounds like they're being really forward thinking.
No, just the thigh.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
how come I didn't get no noodles?
There we go. So, yeah, it sounds like the government's being very forward thinking, and they're seeing this as a way to, seeing it as a way of poverty alleviation and kind of lifting people up out of that. So it's really good that they're doing that. Now that kind of leads us into Argentina, where we have banks that are inflating away people's values, and they're looking towards blockchain to kind of maintain any semblance of savings whatsoever. So maybe Jack can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So here we are having some banks that are really looking to crypto, looking to blockchain. We have the government that is only looking at how they can tax any crypto asset, how they can tax your BTC or any crypto you have. So the government is looking at a way to tax your BTC, at the same time fomenting any blockchain related startup that will serve the community, will serve society. And through the banks, most of them right now are a bit trying to see what they do with blockchain, with crypto. What is a token? What's not a token? but there's some that are really pursuing the blockchain infrastructure for their own internal processes that I find that's amazing. And the use of the blockchain technology as a whole, that's what really going to drive massive adoption into the ecosystem. And the other part of the question was how our community can enter the crypto industry. That's what we do best. We're an on-ramp here in Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico, and we are the ones that offer the service of on-ramping your fiat currency into crypto. Whatever crypto you like, whatever exchange you like, you can just send us the funds and we'll be sending the crypto to you. And something very interesting on the Argentinian mindset and the community here that has been established is the love for the DAI token. There's no ad, but we Argentinians love to know that our tokens are worth for something that's not managed by anyone. So USDT, it has some background. USDC, it's obviously monitored by Coinbase. So if the US ever wanted to touch some USDC, we fear that might happen. So DAI is a good place for us, or at least the Argentinian mindset loves the DAI coin, since we see that no one can dominate above that stablecoin. So that's something that I find really, really interesting as well.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, Jack. I do remember there was some sort of bill tabled in the United States about addressing stablecoins too. So that would totally, if I were Argentinian, that would kind of make me quiver in my boots a little bit there.
Exactly. Our savings are in USD. So if the Fed wants to have more inflation, we are going to have more inflation. If the Fed wants to touch any stablecoin, we're going to be messed up.
Sounds like Argentinians just want to wake up in the morning and see what they left in their bank account one day is still there the next, right?
Exactly, yes.
Unfortunately, Daniel isn't there. And I used to talk a lot with Bitcoin Venezuela on Twitter there. And I do remember seeing a lot of stuff there, what's going on, the situation, and seeing people just getting Bitcoin donations, and they're running off to the store to get some food for old ladies' senior home, and, just being able to get some food on the table there. So it kind of shows you when you cannot trust government issued currencies or, the policies of your government, especially when you see a country like Venezuela, which is sitting on as much oil as Canada, Saudi Arabia, or any other country out there. That wealth sometimes doesn't trickle down to the people. So it's really unfortunate that happens. But thank God for the Satoshi's white paper in 2008 to at least give us an alternative as volatile as it can be. So let's say we move on to the next little bit of our discussion here. Why don't we talk a little bit, this will be for DaVinci as well, he'll be the one to start this one, is where do you see this moving in your local area? And what do you see as the biggest hurdles for getting people into the space or anything like that?
Well, the biggest hurdles of obviously, first off, people want the chicken and the egg syndrome, the chicken and egg syndrome. Oh, who's accepting it for money, right? So they want the acceptance of it for money first before they actually could go out and use it. So that's one thing. And then they fail to see that, oh, wait a second, also this can be an investment right now. When you talk about it as being money, then they immediately react to they forget about how high it's gone, how it keeps going higher, and they immediately turn to, well, nobody's accepting it. Well, in Chile, what's happening is that there are more online retailers that are actually accepting Bitcoin directly, but unfortunately, now that that's happened, the transaction fees have gone up so heavily that it makes it prohibitive to use. And so these retailers have to start switching over to Lightning Network, and the Lightning Network has to be a usable product for the not only for the consumer, the end user, but also for the what's it called, the retailers, because in my initial testings, which I know things have changed. I read the white paper and they've made some changes. But in the past, what you had to do is you had to have a backup of your every single transaction that occurred, because if that server went down, you'd need to put it back up, and because the backup was written to disk, if there was a transaction that occurred before you actually did the what's it called, if it actually did get written to the disk, if that transaction became missing, and then you restored your Lightning node, you would provide
Avery's out.
incorrect information, and then that would cause the other side of the node to take all your money. And so that, I was like, that's not good, right? I was playing with it, and I found that that's a big problem that they hadn't solved. But then they came up with a white paper saying that you won't need watchtowers, you won't need to worry about that, based on the new Schnorr signatures and so forth. So I'm interested in seeing how that works. I tried reading it and it didn't make any sense, but you know what? They made the stuff, the white papers that they write nowadays, they assume massive amounts. You had massive amounts of prior knowledge, and that's why it's a little bit confusing to follow. So yeah, I'm going to research that. I think it's come to a point where it's actually usable. If what they're saying in the white paper is true, then yeah, I think it's time for. Unfortunately, it's difficult for businesses to, once they adopt Bitcoin at one point, and then they go, okay, no, now that's no good anymore. Now you got to do it this way. It makes it a little bit harder, right, to do that, right? Because you want to be able to have a stable application that you're going to use the same way over and over again. And although Bitcoin is like that, because the first version of the Bitcoin software does work today. So if you have the original version and you have any money being sent in that account, you can still send it to anybody in the world, right? Because that's how Bitcoin works. It's always they never break the past. So yeah, I see that. Once we get to Lightning and the Lightning is like solidified, we'll see massive adoption rapidly across the board, especially for the average person. And that's mostly the type of people who are living in Chile. They're just the average folk who just want to, save and buy stuff, and that's it.
Great input there. I think, we brought up a couple of things there too. I find a lot of white papers these days are cleverly called white papers, and they actually misspelled marketing wrong. And it's really kind of a marketing paper that you're seeing most of the time these days. And so, and then the other great thing that you brought up too, I think a lot of people have kind of concerns of taking their Bitcoin transactions off chain into the Lightning network. And I mean, there are a lot of really, really smart people in this space, but there's also a lot of people that may not have the system administration sort of background to kind of run that stuff, or the developer operations stuff. When you start seeing like the Lightning node, did you set it up on a RAID or something like that? So you always have disk backups. Do you have like, a developer operations background if you're going to run an Ethereum staking node or something along those lines? So there's a lot of that there that I think a lot of people are doing trial and error, and that exposes us to a lot of risk ourselves as well too. So that gave me some stuff. Now, the other aspect of it too is you still have certain coins that are out there as the transaction fees are going up. I can't imagine if I was in Argentina spending $20 to $50 to send $20 to $50 as well. Gives you a little bit of cause for concern as well. But there are lots of other coins out there that have, Doge. I think the minimum transaction fee is still $1 Doge to send it out there. Digibyte is extremely cheap to send that value over there. And then, if you really want Bitcoin in the end, you could probably go to exchange it out and do whatever you want from there as well. So maybe that kind of leads it into kind of like Papua New Guinea, when we start exploring that as well. I'm sure transaction fees are a big issue, but what other sort of like government or other stuff that you're seeing that needs to happen for people to kind of bring that on there, Chris?
Yeah, well, the technology in itself, I see, has a lot of promise in our country. The biggest hurdle that we face is government regulation. at the end of the day, the government dictates what we can and we cannot allow with regard to financial transactions and the use of things like blockchain and cryptocurrencies. That's probably our biggest hurdle. But as I said, we are slowly moving in it, slowly but surely. But that's very promising. Another hurdle for us, probably the second one down that list, would be the commercial banks. As you know, with the introduction of cryptocurrencies, there's most of the commercial banks on edge because a lot of people are slowly investing in cryptocurrencies, and they're converting all their fiat currency into crypto, and that really has shaken the banks to some extent. And you'll find that a lot of them are putting in their own regulations and policies which are restricting a lot of people from purchasing crypto using their platforms. I find that a lot because a lot of the time I purchase crypto on behalf of some of my clients, and I find that a lot of the times the bank will shut my account down. I physically need to call them or speak to one of the offices to release the account, simply because of the fact that firstly they don't understand what we're doing with regard to investing in the currency, and they use regulation as a means to justify the putting accounts on hold for those type of things. So those would be probably the two biggest hurdles. The third one would probably be telecommunications, but of course in most emerging countries that's come to be expected. The infrastructure is still not there yet, but slowly but surely, as I said, we're moving into that place where communication will allow for us to utilize some of the platforms that are out there to trade cryptocurrencies. Another good example, especially in the agriculture sector, is the value chain provenance, with regard to the movement of product from point A, from the farmers to the end users. Just, I think a year ago, I was invited to Stanford to speak about a fish traceability application using blockchain that we were developing. So those are the type of things that have a lot of application in the country, but until such time that regulation allows for the technology to be used to its full extent, then we'll still be treading very lightly until we're given the green light to do so. The technology, as I said, is here, but just the government backing and the regulation.
Interesting.
Things.
Yeah, you definitely see a lot of potential with people coming online. You see that a lot happening with India. There's some really cheap plan that went on, and all of a sudden everybody was coming online in India. And so is that sort of happening in Papua New Guinea as well? Is like you said the telecommunication infrastructure is not quite there, and you said most of the country is unbanked. So I think you'd have to really kind of rely on a cellular signal being very strong to get people on board with even Bitcoin to begin with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've experimented with many different alternatives. We've tried using paper wallets and storing stuff online using paper wallets the old-fashioned way, but again, that comes with its own risk as well. If paper gets lost or is destroyed, then you've lost your wallet essentially. So we've ventured into a lot of different technologies to allow for the technology to gain footing in the country. But you'll find that as the technology starts to improve and it becomes more accessible to a lot of the people, a lot of people will be getting on board. It'll become more user-friendly. In Papua New Guinea itself, we have over 600 languages with a population of over 8 million. So like you walk a kilometer down the road and someone is speaking a different dialect. So that also complicates a lot of things. And we've done well to live in harmony amongst ourselves, but you can see the dynamics of the country in itself. So those are some of the challenges outside of the technology, but we've managed to handle that. We've built a strong user base throughout the country, and because of some of the awareness that we provided, the central banks and the commercial banks are slowly getting on board and realizing the potential that the technology does have.
Amazing. So Jack, I think you have some great input on this as well.
Yes. We really, on our side in Argentina, we need the government really to regulate the whole ecosystem. That's something we're expecting to happen in the next couple of years or upcoming months. And there's nothing very soon, but as I mentioned, they want to tax that before they can see how it really works. And in terms of adoption and how users and what's the bottlenecks people are getting into by getting to crypto, One is the education. It's I think a fundamental part of the picture is trying to educate the community as much as possible, as you do here with Bitcoin Bay. I think this is amazing, having so many people on board. I think now we're 52, and I don't know how much the 52 of us know or are into crypto. Maybe some are just starting, maybe some really know about crypto, but I think this community events really help everyone achieve the basic knowledge to move into the space and start growing there. And in terms of finance and economics and the macro aspect of how crypto really can be a means of transaction through merchants and clients, I really think stablecoins are by far the future, or at least the first step towards using crypto in a daily basis, basically. So what I really think is, whenever we just launched the first Argentinian stablecoin and the first Brazilian real stablecoin, and our vision is for every merchant to accept pesos or crypto pesos with no difference at all, basically. So as we're partners with Stellar, we have the tokens issued in their blockchain, and the transactions are pennies. Transactions are in terms of seconds. So the merchant would really be receiving the same amount of pesos he sold at the instant, and he will be able to send these pesos and receive them in their bank accounts. So he got a crypto pesos in seconds. He can see that in his wallet, and the next second he can send those crypto pesos to his bank account through us, and he will have that on his bank account. When you compare that to how Visa or MasterCard will work, the cost for the POSnet is extremely high. They charge up to 3.5%, sometimes 4%, and they will be receiving the money at least 60 or 90 days after making the sale. So you can imagine, in inflationary economies, 60 to 90 days, it's too much. So in 90 days, it's, I'd say, 1/4 of a year. So you had 12% inflation there. So you sold in January, 90 days after, you'll be receiving 12% less of the real value of the item you sold. So that's a spiral circle of losing money, inflation. So if they could really have their money in crypto, they would charge the user in the instant. They would have their money in their crypto wallet at the same time they have sold the item, then send it to their bank accounts if they wish to, or they would buy DAI, for example, against the stablecoin ARST. They will be in dollarized the same second they just sold the item. So that's something for us in some inflationary economies that we really look up to. We see that as the dream come true. So I really think that once merchants start adopting and users stop using it, and that's the same chicken and the egg issue there, you have no merchants are accepting ARST because there are no users right now using it, but the users are steadily growing, so merchants will start adopting because they want to sell more through that means. So I think that's the future of how it will be, and what are the problems right now of crypto.
Interesting. And, it's funny that you bring that in with the inflation. I remember a long time ago, a friend from the former Eastern Europe, when they went through their hyperinflation, he told a story about how he wanted, I think the World Cup was being held in Germany, and he wanted his mom to buy this one shirt for him. And every day, the shirt would get more and more expensive, to the point it was actually what the house was originally worth denominated in dollars, that what their mortgage was for. So really, in the end, your money becomes useless. And I think a lot of us, even in North America, with the state of the economy and the amount of money being printed in the United States and Canada as well. I think $2 trillion US dollars is about to go out the door in the United States. And I don't even think we have any semblance of what the bill is in Canada just yet. And we just know that the inflation is going to hit us soon. And I think you're starting to see a lot more people starting to drive that in. We're starting to see that in food prices here in Canada. Housing prices have just gone through the roof as well. So it's very interesting to watch how all that happens. I know as well when what we were just talking about there too, I know Daniel's had to drop off. I know it's a little bit spotty in Venezuela, but I think at that point, when you kind of consider what they're in, it just comes down to who's pointing the gun at you. So there's all these applications in some ways where it's it's not pretty, but at least we have solutions. So let's get on the more positive side, the solutions. And what is the most positive thing about where you are in the world, about this community and about this technology that you see moving forward? What's the biggest, whether it's something that's going on in your community, whether it is, a technology? I think we talked about stable coins as well, but what's the most positive aspects about this for you guys where you are? DaVinci?
Well, for me, the most positive aspect is that it is growing. You can see the growth because I remember there was Ethereum meetups and people learning how to program in Ethereum. Lots of meetups with Bitcoin, how to program with that as well. There is adoption growing. You can see it. I challenged some people to buy stuff with Lightning Network. Just a few months ago, I gave them some Lightning coins and I said, hey, you know what? You get to use these coins, but only if you spend them for something, and not you can't spend it indirectly through an exchange, right? And they were able to find places that did accept the Lightning payments in Chile, and so it is growing in that sense. So I'm looking forward to seeing how far this thing can go going forward, because that growth is very important, right? That's what we need to see: constant and never-ending growth.
Perfect. Chris, what do you think?
Yep. For me, I think the adoption is one of the more positive things about what I've experienced to date. Seeing just the level of usage within the country, the numbers have really started to go up, and people are starting to see the real benefit. Not just individuals or farmers, but also the government. Things like developing a financial system that is immutable, which is able to be audited. Blockchain itself, cryptocurrency aside, has other application as well. And as an accountant myself, I understand the intricacies that come with doing something like an audit, for example. And you eliminate a lot of the time spent on auditing your financial statements by incorporating things like blockchains, which are immutable in itself. So those are some of the benefits that I see, and some of the positives that come out with the use of the technology itself. But as I said, adoption is one of the main benefits in my country.
Amazing. Jack?
So I really think the adoption of is one of the best things that will make grow the ecosystem. I think that it has to be, in a way, like a trickle-down economy. The government has to have a great idea about the crypto, and that is when really the masses are going to have a great vision about crypto. If the government keeps saying it's scam, keep saying it's super dangerous, keep asking their people, as with Christopher, that please don't touch crypto, that won't work. That really will make big part of the community not be part of crypto and lose it out. And I think that the hardest part is creating real use cases of crypto. Once you create, you disagree? Oh, so once you create real use cases, that's when people start getting into it.
All right, guys. So I think right now is a good time to kind of open up the floor. Is anybody have any sort of questions they want to ask? You can direct it towards anyone in the community here, preferably our panelists. But if anything that you want to talk about, price, you want to talk about something along what we've talked about tonight, I'm opening up the floor to everybody here. I think everybody, do you know how to raise your hand in Zoom? I think we've all learned this maybe, but through the pandemic, but if you don't, there you go. We have people raising their hand right there. Who do we have here? That would be, there we go. Who do we have here? Oh, I lost my chat window. Does anybody see who that was raising their hand?
Effie, EFE. So yeah, I think it's one.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for hosting this. It's been really informative. So I just wanted to ask the experts or anyone from Bitcoin Bay your general view on the future of the meat and potatoes of personal investing, which is not how many shops can accept my currency online. It's equity, it's purchases for big ticket items like houses, saving for your children's education, for their future, taking vacation when you want to, creating an inheritance for your descendants, just like personal wealth, I guess. So personal adoption of Bitcoin is a great entry point, but that's not what defines personal investing for most people. So how do you see the future of investing for equity in the future, or building wealth by using cryptocurrency?
Does one of our panelists want to take that? And I think a lot of us will probably have some input on that as well too.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I guess I'll go if they don't want to. The idea of wealth or personal wealth, crypto or blockchain basically is allowing exchanges or companies or institutions to actually start digitizing their values, their real asset values. So traditionally, if I want to buy a stock, I go to a broker, I open an account, and I buy the stock. My settlement is 2 days, and that's it. Now imagine anything blockchain-based technically settles immediately. So once that is done, you digitize equity transactions. Basically, I can buy Tesla, my settlement is immediate. So that's one aspect of it. I can look at basically, with the advent of other layers on blockchain where you're looking at DeFi and whatnot, it makes it easier for a person to actually look at price discovery. So now you're going to move all these big siloed exchanges out of the whole network of wealth creation or wealth enhancement, so that one, I don't need to go to a broker directly. I can basically say I want to buy Tesla stock, somebody has it, and what's the pricing mechanism or what's price discovery? I get into a DeFi or some other versions of a DeFi contract, and I'm able to do the transaction immediately and have it settle immediately. So when you look at personal wealth, the initial on-ramp, like you said, is people are looking at crypto prices, Bitcoin prices, Ethereum prices. That's great. The next level is basically being able to digitize real world assets and know that it cannot be counterfeit via the blockchain and making transactions happen immediately. That's the good part. The bad part is people are lazy about actually holding their own keys and managing their own personal wealth that way. So like in our practice at Bitcoin, but we look at the ease of making things for people, because if people have to manage their own keys and basically manage their own personal wealth that way, it makes adoption that much more difficult, right? Because ideally, if I go to a bank and I F up, what do I blame? I blame the bank. I go to them, I call them, I say, you got to fix this. I harass them until they're able to fix it. If I lose my private key, who do I call? You know, and if my private key basically ties into my Bitcoin, my Tesla, all my other digital assets, then I'm SOL. So to answer your question, that's one aspect. That's what we're looking internally to see how to make it easier for people to actually, now once they get into the crypto space, blockchain, whatever you want to call it, and they're building their personal wealth, how can they actually manage those individually without needing a centralized institution? Anybody else want to jump on that?
Well, I think he brings up a great point there as well. I think what we will see is with blockchain in retail investing, it's the single greatest opportunity for investment I think anybody's ever had. It's going to be one of the greatest wealth transfers in history when it does happen, and it's already happening. It's cyclical. I wouldn't go in there and start trading and you quit your job and do your day trading. But you mentioned stuff like saving for your kids' educations. It's we've almost, and I think Alwyn will back me up on this one as well. Is that we're trading, we're seeing 3-year cycles. Seems like every 3 years we have a major run up, a big crash, but it crashes upwards, right? And I think in the future, as people become priced out of certain things, it's $1 million almost here now in Waterloo region just to buy a home. It's pushing beyond that in Toronto for a detached home, anything like that. So people are looking for places to put their money into. But as we kind of look forward in the future, I think there's going to be more instruments kind of put out there for us to, and not so much sell our crypto for our use our crypto to buy a large ticket item like Elon Musk's new model of Tesla, or buying a house. I think that you might see some sort of other mechanisms coming out, probably with DeFi or other mechanisms to borrow against that value like you would with a house and a mortgage or anything along those lines. And I think that kind of leads me into the next question we have here from Ilya. Ilya, do you want to ask a question here?
Yes, good evening, everyone. One question is already answered, so I will just ask the first one. So crypto.com, there is an app and there is also DeFi wallet. My understanding, crypto.com app itself is an exchange, right? And DeFi wallet is a crypto wallet. But why it has this name? Is it standards like crypto wallet, or there is something different from standard wallet on DeFi crypto.com wallet?
Alwyn, anybody? Does anybody know?
I don't use crypto.com, but generally some of those places they have some of those centralized exchanges do have separate wallets, and some of them have meaning that you actually are the direct owner of the currency, and then some of them they call it wallets, but it really is just they're the owner, and it's just another bank account basically. So basically, in order to determine whether or not this wallet that they say that you have, right? All you can do is just see if there's any button to say, "Give me my private keys." And if there is that button to give you the private keys, you know that wallet is yours and yours only. As far as assuming that the programmer does not actually store that private key locally, of course, which is there's no way to actually to verify that that's the case on their server side. So
yeah, DeFi wallet definitely has the keys, the seeds, yes. But I'm just wondering why they have this strange name, DeFi wallet.
DeFi wallet. Well, that's just so that they have it cool. It's like, yeah, I got a DeFi wallet. I'm in DeFi.
It's marketing.
So nothing to worry about. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Goes back to that whole "not your keys, not your crypto." The old saying by Andreas Antonopoulos, right? If anybody hasn't heard of him, check out Andreas Antonopoulos and learn about that. So Daphne, you're up next. You're muted. Daphne, you're muted. Let's unmute you.
I am so sorry. Okay, so I have a question on Ethereum. So something that's been really confusing me lately is that Ethereum has been very, I guess, inefficient, especially with gas fees and it being expensive and stuff. By the price being the
I think we've lost Daphne there. What we'll do is Ask her. Let's see if we can get her to explain this in the channel.
Whilst we're waiting for that, I'd like to point out that, you know what, the top-down approaches always result in the government for putting some sort of hole so that we get screwed over by either by the government itself or by corporations. You don't want a top-down approach because it will not make things fair. They will always make things uneven and unfair. You know the story, right? Hey, I'm here from the government. I'm here to help. That's the most scariest words you want to hear. Those are the scariest words you want to hear in your entire life, because you know the government breaks your legs and gives you crutches and says, you see, you wouldn't be able to walk without me. No, thank you.
The nanny state. Anybody else have any questions? Daphne, I think you're back there. Maybe we can get you to turn off your video and then turn on your audio. Sometimes that helps with some bandwidth issues.
Well, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. I was wondering about, I think you guys got the part where the gas fees are high. So how does it justify Ethereum's price on being this high? And do you think that it can continue to go up with all the other competitors racing to lessen the gas fees as well as efficiency?
Well, efficiency, I'd like to take that one, because efficiency is always a problem for no matter what systems, right? For example, the internet was very inefficient in the past. It was like you couldn't do audio, you couldn't do video, but you know it gets upgraded, right? Because it's a protocol, and so protocols constantly get upgraded, and so because everybody's on Ethereum already, because all the programs, all the decentralized applications that interconnect each other, because it's not just, think about what you're trying to say, that my one little application, it's too much gas fees, I want to go to ADA. Okay, fine. Is there any other application there? No, there isn't. There isn't anything on Cardano, and so but that not just that one little application, but all the integral applications that interact with each other. For example, do you think you can use a flash loan on a Cardano? No. You think you could lose a flash loan on Binance Chain? No, not yet. But you know, because the reason why is because there's not enough applications on those platforms yet in order for them to take over. So they're not going to take over anytime soon. And Ethereum is not standing still, right? Just because the gas fees are high today doesn't mean they're going to be high tomorrow, right? And so once that gets cleared up, especially with EIP 1559, right? That would be that, and you'll see Ethereum. People will be going, okay, now I see the justification of the price, but the price of the Ethereum has nothing to do with the fact that it's inefficient. It's not inefficient. It's just you always have to move the bar higher, because no matter what they do, let's just say we come up with some way that we increase the bandwidth by 50-fold. We'll use it all very quickly, right? And then we have to increase it by 50-fold again and use it all quickly again.
Great input. Great input there. I was definitely going to bring up that EIP that you mentioned there. There is something in the works. It's just the way nothing ever stands still. There's always Bitcoin improvement processes and everything along those lines. So we're going to move to Tarek. I think I'm saying that right. You're up next. Let's ask a question. And then after that, we'll go to Mikey M.
Hello all, my name is Tarek. I'm from Mississauga, Ontario. That's in Canada for the international audience. I want to thank you. My question is, since we have international speakers, with cases of hyperinflation, did you come across any use case of using crypto as a unit of account instead of money or store of value, where as an accountant, I can run my ledger, have books, have crypto as unit of account, and hence have a complete monetary system? Thank you.
I can go ahead and start off with that one. We here in Argentina right now don't have a blockchain accounting method of doing so, and that's something we need at the time. Our inflation is our accounts, our books are really outdated. We can't put our books in terms of the inflationary, the real inflation. We only can do that adjusted to the inflation set by the government, which is 5 times less than the real inflation is. So basically, right now, in accounting terms, our wealth is few $100. So yeah, I think that's something very interesting to have. I don't know if someone has used a program like that before, DaVinci.
There is, yeah. The problem is there is no accounting. The problem is accounting with Bitcoin is because the issue is that your suppliers, you don't pay your suppliers in Bitcoin, you don't pay your taxes in Bitcoin, you don't pay. You may pay your employees with Bitcoin, but then you always index it to a currency in general. So for it to be a unit of account on your books, it has to be. You have to use it as a means to pay other people in a fixed manner. So for example, instead of paying, no, I'm paying you $1,000 a month, but I'm going to convert it to Bitcoin. No, it's got to be like I'm paying you 0.00 or 100,000 satoshis or whatever it is, always every month, and that's how a business would be able to manage going forward. Without that, they can't do it with Bitcoin that way. So,
actually, I think it's the government that will impose which currency they want the exchange rate to be at. If you want to buy you want to pay some costs in gold, silver, or any a commodity that has a fluctuant exchange rate throughout the time, you're going to have to actually say at what FX rate you have changed your asset to.
I just want to add something here. With regard to, from an accounting standpoint, everything accounting, especially when you're talking about standards in the accounting world, will always come back to what they refer to as the IFRS and generally accepted accounting principles. That usually stipulates things like treatment of different currencies with relation to foreign exchange, forex, and things like that. So in order for there to be an accounting system or software that allows that to take place, that will require regulation with regard to IFRS and generally accepted accounting principles that stipulate how you translate things like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies with regard to, for example, accounting, taxes, and other things that are related to accounting in general. So personally for myself in Papua New Guinea, and with my experience, I haven't experienced any accounting software that utilizes Bitcoin or treats the foreign exchange. I mean, what is practiced now is just the conversion from the exchange itself, but the actual treatment with regard to preparation of financial statements, that's still, I believe, a long way away because we have yet to put in place regulation, especially with generally accepted accounting principles globally.
Amazing. Yep. So let's take this on to Mikey M. Unmute yourself and ask away.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. Just want to get, sorry, from Toronto, by the way. I understand last week Bitcoin just released an ETF, and I guess one is Canadian currency and I think one is the US currency. Want to get everyone's opinion on what they think about the ETF and would you invest in the ETF or just buy the actual coin itself?
Okay, I guess let me take that one. I'll start with that one. Now, basically, there was another quote unquote ETF / it's actually mutual fund, which is QBTC. All right. They were at first pitching as an ETF, but when you're looking at it, it's a mutual fund. But what you look at is any ETF or any fund, you have to look at the MERs and the premium to real asset, right? So the premium to real asset right now on any of those are too high for me anyways, right? Until more people get in, then the premium to real asset was going to come down a bit. So if I was given a choice, if I had the money, I would buy the real asset and hold the real asset, right? For people that don't have the nuances, maybe it'd be easier. You can buy the ETF or the mutual fund and put it in your mutual fund and huddle that one there. But again, it goes back to the ethos of what the blockchain crypto space is not your keys, not your money. All right. Also, and I'm personally trying to look at this as well, and I'm trying to map out what the strategy would be on custody. And I'll be honest with you, if you're telling me you're holding crypto at that level, right, you better bloody have a really good custody system. Because once you've announced an ETF or some form of you holding crypto, and I'm able to get access to your address, that means that what happens is that it opens up globally a whole lot of people try to attack your wallet, your hard or cold wallet. So there's a lot of nuances that are involved in basically setting up an ETF or a managed fund, because that's what it is. That to me, some of these proponents of it have not disclosed yet, right? So if it's not disclosed, and over time it'll be disclosed, excuse me for a second, over time what's going to happen is this. As the industry goes and the funds go, what is going to happen is those processes have to be disclosed. But if you've been in the space long enough, you know that what's my biggest impediment? Storing crypto. So how's an ETF going to store the crypto? They're buying these crypto, and how are they going to store it? How are they managing so that somebody doesn't steal, an employee doesn't basically steal the crypto using a multi-sig? You know, how are they managing liquidity? Meaning that as an ETF, you have to be ready if everybody runs out to sell, to redeem for cash. So you're going to basically go in, and as a fund manager, you have to have a certain amount of money set aside for that. So what happens is your ETF basically has a cash drag. So it will not perform one for one the real asset unless I use a derivative strategy to mimic that. So then it becomes, you got to look at what's the ETF using? Is he buying real asset or is he using derivatives assets to actually mirror the position? Now, if I was managing the fund, right, I would use derivative strategies because I can manage that. As DaVinci said, it's all fool's gold, fool's money, ETFs. Using futures strategy and stuff like that. That'd be a strategy. I'm just rolling futures contract and just participating and whatnot. Then I can technically create a strategy that will mirror the underlying, and I can manage the cash component. But if I'm going holding real assets, it brings in a lot of issues. So then the question becomes, how can I, as an investor at this stage, would I put the money in an ETF or would I buy the real thing? For my parents, maybe I'll tell them, you know what? Maybe buy a couple of shares of an ETF. We'll put the rest in real assets just to try it out at this stage, right? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So in the end, you don't actually own your own crypto. Like if there may have been some stipulations in there where I think maybe with the newest one, you might be able to do that every couple of quarters. But really, one of the benefits, I think, if I'm going to play the devil's advocate, if you just want the price action, you might be able to get that through an ETF. And as a Canadian, you can hold that in a tax-free savings account, and then you're not paying the capital gains on that. So depending on how you want to play that strategy, you might want to do a hybrid model, right?
That's it. If you think Bitcoin is going to go up 100x, buy it in an ETF, put it in your TFSA, sell it when it hits your price point, and you're tax-free. You don't have to worry about any accounting issues. Not a damn thing. For us that kind of technically hold crypto, once we sell, technically the government doesn't know we own it, right? It's the exit part that's going to kill you. Because when you exit out the fiat, they're going to be out there and you're going to say, where did you get that money from? And you got to tell them, I bought it. What price did you buy it at? Oh, okay. So how are we going to treat that? Capital gains or income? Then you get into all that nuance of, of that taxation thing. If we can move the world to a more crypto world, where my suppliers, I pay them in crypto, my employees, I pay them in crypto, I buy things in crypto, it makes life easy for everybody. Also, just to circle back on the accounting issue, there's the gap process and what Christopher mentioned. Really, if you're a business and you're dealing in crypto, the process is already there for accounting, right? Because if I'm doing I'm USD, doing USD transactions, but the process for translation is there. All I have to do is just realize that Bitcoin is a currency and use those translation process and apply to that. The issue becomes, there's a process year end, what FX I'm going to use. Usually, if you're in Canada, Revenue Canada might post all those rates. At this point, back to local currency. The general process is there. People make a do of a lot of things that they shouldn't make a do of when it comes to crypto and fiat. The hard part, what they do is that the on-ramp and off-ramp is the only place, I'll be honest with you, that governments can get you, regulators can get you. Once you're in crypto and you stay in crypto, they can't get you anywhere else. Outside of that, once you go from fiat to crypto onboarding, you're out. You're going back to fiat, they can get you. That's my 2 cents on that.
So
yeah, but one thing I want to point out, he said that if you think the price is going to 100x, put it in the ETF or buy PayPal or buy any of these derivatives or potential derivative products, you're actually going to not participate in increasing the price to that 100x. So
yeah,
you're actually going against what because the other person is betting against you, which is the central banks, governments, and other banks, and so. And they have, and by buying that, you're not participating. You're not increasing the price. You're just betting against the price. You're just like going to.
No, I mean,
I'm gonna put it on black, and that's crazy. That's crazy.
No. I mean, on a strategy, on a futures, like basically, because part of my day job is I deal with derivatives, OTC derivatives, listed derivatives, right? So if I'm structuring a derivative structure, right, and I have the CME's giving me these derivative structures, all I'm doing is saying that if I think as a fund manager or portfolio manager, I'm prices going to go up X amount to mirror that underlying real asset, I'll just create a derivative layer structure, either futures, forwards, whatever, and basically target my rollouts to match the movements, right? Now, if you're an individual, I would tell you never go into a futures agreement, never buy CME, because 9 out of 10 you're not sophisticated enough. I see on my side the strategies that people push, and most people on this call don't have the capital or the knowledge base to get into those strategies. You get raped. That's all I'm saying. But for ETFs, as an ETF or fund manager, those strategies are available to me because I have access to work those deals if it was to go that way. But, and then to circle back to it, for you or I, if you're going to buy an ETF, if you're in Canada, and I'm putting quotes around Canada, and you think it's going to go up a certain amount and you don't want to deal with taxes or anything like that, buy your ETF. But the truth of the matter is, I prefer you buy the real coin. I'm just putting clarity on what I said.
Yeah, the way I see these ETFs or anything like that, it's mostly just people, the big, the establishment legitimizing us, and I don't really care if they legitimize us or not.
Okay.
So again, just buy it and just hold it. And
I have an example. Let me give you an example. Okay. So anybody that knows those triple double leverage ETFs or whatnot. So the trick is this USO, which is an oil. It's supposed to mimic oil, right? So this is what happened, right? When oil starts dropping, and it started to drop, oil price dropped, those ETFs, the USO, basically went negative. So what happened was that these fund managers or the ETF managers recalibrated and adjusted the units amount so that it can go back to a certain point. So all these things, if you're going to invest in an ETF, the average person is not aware of that, right? That the strategies that the ETFs use really on a day-to-day, on a whole basis, they're not in your benefit. I remember when the USO was mimicking, when oil was $40, was mimicking $40. Oil started dropping. And then because it was trading.
I have to get going.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for allowing me on this panel. I appreciate it.
All right, DaVinci, thank you very much for joining. I'll let you finish.
Thanks a lot. Bye now, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you. Yep.
Take care.
Yep. So what I was saying, the USO basically went from $40, mimicking the crude oil prices, dropped to 20 and kept dropping. The futures that the USO was trading became inverted. So the US, in order to price it, basically they had to readjust. So they readjusted. So the USO was trading at $2, which it shouldn't have. And then what happens? They reorganized the quantity. So if you had 100, it was reduced to by a factor of 10, 20 to push the price up. So so these things are things that when the average investor looks at an ETF, they don't look at it. And especially if you go into those triple leveraged, triple double inverse ETFs, those are ETFs that you don't hold for long term. Those are trading purposes. So you have to look at what you're buying and what the purpose of what you're buying is. Hopefully that answers somebody else's question.
Any other questions?
Great.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. So the question, just in general consensus, do we think that there's going to be a floor to come for Bitcoin, or with the adoption, is it going to go further up from where it is right now?
Oh boy, you're opening up a can of worms here, Mike. History has taught me nothing is normal right now, right? With the way we are around the world right now. My own opinion, I think right now, stimulus checks in the U.S. and all these other things that are happening right now, people are dumping money into places and they don't have a place to put that. We have more savings in Canada that has ever been recorded before. People are looking for a place to put their money, right? And I think we do have room to go up, but boy, is there a long way to come back down. And so every time Bitcoin seems to adjust, or the crypto market adjusts, we go up very, very high and we come down to a new price floor. And that new price floor is a lot higher than it used to be before. So we saw it go up to kiss $20,000 USD in 2017, and then we went down to $9,000. In 2014, I think we saw it hit 1,000, came down to a few $100s. What I seem to think is we've got room to grow, but I think it's going to probably drop a little bit, and we're going to have a new price floor of, say, maybe, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I think Leo Alwyn's probably got a lot of input on that. And actually, Jack, you work at basically an exchange, so maybe you've got some input on that.
Yeah, so you just said is extremely interesting. We see that there's going to be a correction sometime soon, but the thing is that if more media is covering the BTC hype, more of these Tesla companies start going up and saying, hey, we just bought 1 billion, hey, this fund X just bought 3 billion, and etc. Those type of news are going to keep pumping and pumping up the prices, but eventually that pump is going to finish, and that's when you're going to be expecting some type of correction in the market, because indefinite growth it's not a symptom of a healthy price rate, basically.
My fear is euphoria kicking in, and then it just goes parabolic, which it almost is parabolic right now.
Right now, yes.
And the further you go up, the more you have room to fall. So
yeah.
Anybody else have input on that?
Alwyn, go ahead.
Yeah,
I
sure.
know you're
So,
dying to talk.
hey, can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello, can you guys hear me?
I
You
can
can
hear you.
hear. Okay, so here's the big deal. I mean, the question that was asked right in the beginning, and something to do with what you have now. And I guess if Jeremie DaVinci was still here, he would endorse this. Is in 2013, Jeremie made a video. He used to do a lot of silver analysis, and he got into Bitcoin, and he made a video saying, everyone just buy $1 of Bitcoin. That video is still around. If any of you Google it, you will find it. And I would say that it still holds value today. Is $1 invested at the beginning of the last decade was $90,000 in Bitcoin. And I would say today, you can't be too worried if you're getting into something like Bitcoin, because you're not really looking at saying, hey, I'm putting in so much money and is Bitcoin going to stay at 70,000 Canadian or going to correct to 50,000 Canadian, because that's what Bitcoin does. It corrects massively both ways, but it always goes up eventually. So when you're looking at tuitions for your children or whatever it is in the long term, the point I would make today is this: a small investment of, let's say, 0.2 Bitcoin, which today would cost you in the range of around 14,000 Canadian. If you hold it for another 2 cycles, and another cycle could go on, like Jack said, we could have a huge correction now, but the halvening has not factored in, which usually happens 18 months past, let's say, last May. So maybe Bitcoin might take on another traction up to next December and go all the way up to 200,000 or maybe even 500,000 Canadian, but it may not. But if it doesn't, and we have a huge correction, eventually there is always the next crypto summer after a winter. And so we have to accept the fact that when that happens, you're looking at anywhere up to $1 million in Bitcoin for one Bitcoin. Now, the question is, why would it reach $1 million? Well, when it was 30 cents and it reached $300, that's more or less the same proportion by which it's going up. It's you who's worried about the 1 million factor in your head. Today, there are coins, Ethereum, when it came out, was 30 cents at the pre-sale. If you're looking at $2,000 Ethereum today, you're looking at over 700,000% profit, which is hardly what you're going to get if a Bitcoin reaches $1 million. So don't worry about those things in your head. The big problem is not about Bitcoin reaching $1 million. The big problem is what Satoshi wrote in the Genesis block, that the chancellor's on the verge of another bailout for the banks. It's the fiat amounts that are increasing in troves and copiously so around the world with no link to gold, silver, or nothing. And the central banks are going on and on and on, doing what they feel they have the right to do, that is making that value go up. Maybe not proportionately, but maybe, let's say, for example, one Bitcoin in Canadian had reached $25,000 in 2017 at its peak. $25,000 Canadian in 2017 and $65,000 Canadian in 2021 probably, and I'm not saying exactly, probably buys you something similar. $100 Canadian today is nothing what it used to be in 2017. And that's what Michael was saying about prices of houses in Waterloo. These are my inputs, and I'm not saying they're directly applicable. You have to do proportionate valuations and see what you're doing and not worry so much about corrections. 0.2 Bitcoin doesn't mean anything much today's day if you can hold it for 10 years and walk away with $1 million. The point is $1 million in 10 years will happen for 0.2 Bitcoin, but will $1 million be worth anything for you? So really, what choice do you have other than Bitcoin? And that was my other question I wanted to ask the panel or anybody is the governments are not holding silver, gold against fiat. They don't want to hold Bitcoin. What is the real solution for the planet right now? It's all good to say that 50 people today are listening to us and will probably get away with $1 million if they listen. What happens to the rest of the world? Everyone doesn't understand it. the savvy ones are getting away. So some people who have held Bitcoin earlier and us are getting a little wealthier. But does that really help solve the human problem that exists? So I'm not saying I need answers today, but when it comes to at least you guys who have come in today for a Bitcoin Bay meetup, and Bitcoin Bay started off in 2014, consider something. If you think you're going to buy that 0.2 Bitcoin and then the moment the price falls, you're going to sell it, then come to us. We'll give you ways in which you can multi-sig it and force you to hodl it till 10 years are past. That way, at least you will go against your own weakness of selling when the price falls and get away with something valuable with a risk that is probably not that much today. Again, we are not here into investment advice, and I may have sounded a bit harsh, but I'm sorry DaVinci is not here to listen to me this passionately, but it was people like him that pushed us in those early days to say $1 in Bitcoin. Please buy $1 at least, if nothing else. And I know so many people like Warren Buffett and others, even today, they will just not look at this thing. So it's time for those of you who don't know enough to get to learn and listen. And as usual, not your keys, not your crypto. We've made all these previous meetups, and they're up there for people on to review the Zoom videos. But if you don't know where they are, please ping us info@bitcoinbay.ca, and we'll point you towards them, Leo or anybody of us. Okay, so now I'm going to keep quiet and pass it back to you, Mike. Over to you.
Well, yeah. Scott is actually from the KW group. He kind of brought up a good point. Is Bitcoin going up, or is this really the dollar going down? What does everybody think about that?
The dollar's going down.
Exactly.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Antoine begs to differ in the chat. Oh, great. Yeah, I'm wondering too, because the way that we see it here, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is housing seems to be going through the roof in Canada, where and then you have other food prices you're seeing that is going through the roof. And it just kind of tells you, as we're printing this money, I think that, a lot of what we would call the first world countries are going to be in for a little bit of sticker shock soon.
And do you know what's worst? Our fiat is actually pegged. We have in our reserves USD. So you can imagine that we have your inflation multiplied by our inflation. So basically, we're having twice as much inflation as you do, because in our most third world countries, federal reserves, we have USD or euro or
most countries have been forced to do that. And of course, then you have other countries that do that just for themselves, like Cuba. Every time they get a US dollar, it goes into their reserves, right? So
we don't have that much gold. Maybe the US, I think it's one of the first times that I've been to the US many times. When I went, I don't know, 5 years ago, when I spoke about inflation, people said, what is that? Like, what is that? Why things are getting more expensive every time you live? And it was something very difficult to explain to the average US citizen. And I think now more and more people are actually knowing what inflation means, what debasing your monetary economy is, what printing more money is with no backed commodity backing it. So I think that's something that's changing worldwide.
Definitely. So yes, Kenneth just mentioned that too. QE is asset inflationary. Yeah, basically QE infinitive, quantitative easing for infinity.
I mean,
sorry, I muted you by accident there, Leo.
No problem. I'll say Jerry can tell you about inflation, money supply increases via China, how China does it. I mean, basically the Chinese model is where all these countries are following now. As long as you can keep printing, you know what? You can print as much as you want. Pass the buck to the future. So, I mean, I guess that's what the governments have decided to do, is just print money arbitrarily and not worry about how it impacts everybody in the currency.
The crazy thing too is that we don't print money anymore. It's already in a digital ledger, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
even more so in China, where, you know, we can talk about WeChat and all that, where they can kind of cut you off from even interacting with society in that aspect of it. But now it's just a matter of the money. You know, I think there was something changed just recently too with most banks, is that like you don't even need to have the 10% reserve that you need to even give out a loan anymore. It's just give it away. So if we're going to inflate that way, and the banks aren't, you know, you can't always, you know, rely on the banks on being honest. Now, on the same hand too, Canada is very stable when it comes to the banking industry. I mean, in the 2008 crisis, we were the only country in the world that didn't have a bank go under. We were extremely, extremely well capitalized. But I'm wondering just how well that is, and how, you know, what that stress level the banks can take. I don't know if anybody has on that. I know Leo probably doesn't want to answer that question. So
And I will not answer that because this is a recorded thing and I don't want it to get back to my bosses.
So opening it up again if anybody wants to. If not, I think it's almost time for us to close it down. We're free to keep talking, and if anybody wants to turn this into a bit of a free-flowing discussion, we'll leave that open for everybody too.
Michael, there's somebody named Mickey M with a hand up for like a long time.
Oh no, he was the one that asked a couple of minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
I want to thank you, Michael, and everyone for having me here. Antoine, thank you very much for the invite. This is a great community. I really like that. Like 50 people of your community have been 2 hours into this conversation. That's something that really gets the crypto industry going.
Well, again,
Amazing,
Jack, thank you very much for joining us. I know I'm going to reach out to you and thank you personally, and see what we can do with your company as well, because we have a lot of things planned for the rest of the year, and we want to bring what great companies like yours are doing to around the world and feature them. So again, just look up for my email, and Michael will be definitely reaching out to you as well.
Amazing. I'll be expecting that. So if anyone from the community has any questions, I'll leave my Telegram handle here in the chat, so you can send me a message and we can talk. So thank you very much.
Have a great night, Jack.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Is Chris here still, or did he drop off?
Chris?
Christopher?
Yes, he did drop off. He had to
Okay.
drop off there. So open discussion. If not, I think we can wrap it up. And then, of course, we are available on YouTube. We can post that link in the chat right now. We have a Signal group that you guys can join and chat on. We are on WhatsApp and Telegram as well. So if we can get somebody to post that into our chats right now, you guys can keep this conversation going up until our next meetup, and we'll do this all over again. How does that sound, everybody?
Sounds great. Great. So this was actually very informative.
All right, guys, if we can post the Signal link in there into the chat, and then the Telegram and some of the WhatsApp ones, then I think we'll wrap it up.
Actually, I don't have it, but I will send out an email on meetup.com with all the links to all the channels, WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal, all those.
All right, guys. Well, keep safe, have fun, and enjoy the community. Have a great time, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.